Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Vishnu Manjipudi, and I am glad that you are here. Today, we will be solving LeetCode problem number 3, longest substring without repeating characters. The problem reads, given a string, find the length of the longest substring without repeating characters. Example 1 gives us the input string ABC, ABC, BB. The output is 3 because the longest substring without repeating characters is just the substring ABC. Similarly, for example 2, we get an input of BBBBB. The answer is B is 1 because the longest substring without repeating characters is simply B. Finally, for example 3, we have an input of PWWKEW. The output is 3 because the substring is WKE. So then we also have to note that it's not PWKE because it has to be a continuous substring, not just a subsequence. So let's first begin by defining a helper method that checks whether or not a substring is valid. And then in our main method, we can find the maximum length of the valid substring and then return that. So let's first create a helper method in here. So def, let's call it is valid substr. Okay, and we have a string s. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check if there are no repeating characters in s. So to do that, let's first create a set with all the currently used characters. So we have used equals set. Okay, so now that we have our set, we can iterate over the characters in the substring. So we have 4 character in s, and now we check if the set contains the character. So to do that, we use the in method, so in thing. So if character in used, and this just checks if the character has already been used, then we return false because that is not valid. Otherwise, we add character. So use.add character. Okay. And now at the end, if it doesn't return false, then we return true. So now we have a helper method that checks if a substring is valid. We can now tackle the problem. To do this, we will iterate over all the possible substrings in s and then find the length of the maximum length. So let's first create an integer called maxlen, which is equal to 0. Okay, and now what we're going to do is iterate over all the substrings. So we can do this by choosing the first index I and the second index j. So we first choose I in range, and now we go up to s.length, len s, and then -1. Now the reason why we're doing -1 is because we have a second variable called j, which will be the end of the substring. And since the end of substrings is not inclusive, we have to do this. And before here, we also have to put I plus 1. Alright. So now that we have our 2 indices, we can actually iterate over all these strings. So we're going to create a variable called substr, which is equal to the substring of s from I to j. And now what we're going to do is check if is valid substr of substr. And if this is true, then we check if len, actually we don't need to calculate the length since we already know that the length is j minus I. So if j minus I is greater than maxlen, maxlen equals j minus I. And a way we can actually reduce the runtime of this is we can first check if j minus I is greater than max 1. To do this, we do if j minus I is less than or equal to max 1, then we can ignore this, so we just use continue. So now we can just set max 1 equals j minus I. So now at the end, we just return max 1. So let's first check against the given example cases. And we're accepted for ABC, ABC, BB. Let's just try BB, BB, BB. And we get accepted. Let's just check P, W, W, K, E, W. We get accepted. And one more test, since we always want to make sure our code handles edge cases properly, let's just test the empty string. And we're accepted since we return 0. So now we are confident in our solution, and let's submit. And we have a wrong answer. And now this is for the input space. Now, why would this be? Let's check. So let's first print car. Dot format. Okay, now let's run this on space to see what went wrong. Now, if you notice, we're not getting any print output. And this is because in these strings, you can't iterate over spaces like you can for things like 1. If you run 1, it also doesn't work. So now what do we do? So it turns out that we have actually forgotten that instead of saying len of s minus 1, we have to make it len of s. Because when you iterate through substrings, it actually includes the first value, but excludes the second value. So now that we have modified these ranges, when we run the code, it works. And this is just a bit of debug code that we do not need it anymore. So now let's submit. And this time, we have a time limit exceeded on a large substring. Now, since we have a time limit exceeded, we have to strive to optimize our code. And when we look at our code, we see that there is easily an optimizable part here. We know that if a substring is not a valid substring, then we know that all substrings after that in this for loop will also not be valid. So we can do else, and then we can just break. So now, when we use this giant test case, here's the test case, so let's just copy that and test if it works. So we're copying it, and we're going to paste it here. So now that we have pasted this test case, when we run the code with our new optimized solution, we get that runtime limit is no longer exceeded. So now let's submit. And we're accepted. Runtime is faster than 5.05%, memory usage is 14.7 megabytes, and we are done. Thank you so much for watching this video, it really means a lot. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as well as click the bell icon. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please post them down below or email me at steamaspirations@gmail.com. Once again, this is Vishnu Manjipudi signing off. Bye!